have to say about Fnatic's first win.
Thank you so much, QuickShot. Indeed, Fnatic making it in that first game, even though it didn't look great for them. Start everything off with in the picks and bans, so that Lucian ban. What do you guys make of it? Was it trying to bait out the Sivir? Then they came out with the Ezreal pick to maybe contain it before it even came out. And what in the end did it net them?
I think they did try and bait out a little bit the Sivir pick, or they said, okay, Forgiven is probably not going to play it after he lost so many games, so we expect him to play Lucian. Therefore, we banned away. Ezreal, to me, was just a very safe option. The safest of basically all the AD carries. We know Reckless like to sit back and play very passive in the early game, and therefore, if he had picked a Sivir and a Kalista would have gone in against him, he would have been absolutely destroyed, even more than he actually already got destroyed.
Yeah, I think they just wanted to deny Forgiven from getting Lucian, because when he gets Lucian, he just pushes towers down one by one, and it just opens the game for H2K.
Yeah, and H2K in standards lanes, in a game where you're playing tanks in the bottom lane, 1v1ing, mid lane is generically just farming away. A way to break open the early game can be your bot lane if you can translate that tempo to the rest of the map. But H2K kind of failed to do that, and that's why the game felt like it stalled out very long after that first blood.
It did. We are going to take a look at that first blood, though, and as you said, they were able to push in. They got the 2 versus 2 in the top lane, and the tower fell fairly quickly. Let's run it through.
Yeah, so obviously they win the 2v2 top, and then mid lane.
Mid lane happens, like Ryu is hugging hit the wrong side here. I think he should be hugging the bot side. Like, he doesn't see where the enemy is right now, so Forgiven gets a really good ult onto him. And we can see that right here, soon.
Yeah.
And like, his dual lane is just left. First of all, he doesn't flash disengage because he doesn't see anyone. There's a pink ward on that side, but when Azir goes aggressive there and you have no vision on top side, I feel like you have to play it safe and just flash instantly, so you don't get into that situation where they can then follow up with more CC and damage.
Yeah, and honestly, that was one of those plays where I think Ryu in a comfortable environment may just flash that wall immediately. A player that I had my eyes on overall in the series was Vander, because in that lane that they were convincingly winning the Thresh Kalista into Ezreal, I think they could have poked out Cly a bit more. I think at certain times when Vander hit a hook, he felt some hesitation to immediately put that box down into Flay. I remember the instance in mid lane. And then in the kind of game-turning fight around the Baron, Vander went a little bit deep to look for the play on Febiven, and sadly in that moment it was the wrong decision. So I just really wonder how that's going to affect H2K as a whole, the way they lost this game. Just what I want you to keep your eyes on here is after the Baron start later on, just when Vander flashes over and goes for the Azir here, because it all starts very well for H2K with some poke, and then they start a Baron with Kalista, so this is all a good setup.
Obviously, yeah, and H2K has been having good Baron control, good river control, and they have almost all the tools they need to win the game. And then we get to late game and these kind of fights start.
Yeah, fight comes in, like Fnatic contests from all angles, but then H2K, they make the mistake of over-chasing here. Like, Azir is doing so much work, but then he gets out of the fight over the wall top, and look what Vander does here. He goes for the aggressive flash chase instead of peeling down and dealing with the threats in the backline or potentially the full HP Ezreal. Reckless jumps over, Forgiven's forced to flash in and chase, and suddenly that fight that looked oh so good for H2K starts going downhill.
Yeah, it looked like, and you guys mentioned as well, before that fight happened, that H2K had built up a lead, but they were playing with almost too much respect in the matchup versus Fnatic. We know that it is a slow meta, but they could have pulled the trigger earlier, and it came to bite them because here they hang on, but then in the end game team fight, Fnatic totally aces them and ends the game. We can take a look at that replay as well. Should they have been more proactive in the mid game, and how should they have done that, Shook?
I think with a Kindred pick, you should focus more on the early game setups. You have double TP with the Kindred. Kindred has to go inside the enemy jungle, get deep wards down, TP on them, dive them, get a tower. They should just tempo play more.
Yeah, and we can just let their team fight run here, because in my opinion, H2K should never get into this situation in the first place. Once they take the tower, 2v2 top lane, they kept playing on top side because they wanted to 2v2. They kept just pushing for another tower. It's very slow, but it's very safe. I would much more prefer if they actually went bottom side there to get dragon control, because normally it's not very sexy to play around dragons. European teams don't really like to do it that much. But when you have no siege, and when you play into a comp that's going to outscale you, I think having control over early dragons is actually very underrated. So had they gone bottom side with the Kalista and Thresh, they would have taken bot tower, take the first dragon, and start the snowball, basically. It was 1 dragon for H2K at like 30 minutes in, and 2 for Fnatic, so there was obviously no 5 dragons.
We are looking at a lot of mistakes here from H2K, but at the same time, we have to praise Fnatic, because they play kind of their signature style that got punished so much throughout the split, where it's a little bit slow, you know, the Ezreal pick, but they're finding ways to make it work, I feel, in playoffs, especially in front of like some of the bigger crowds. They just play their own style, calm and collected. The other team is a little bit more passive than people expect it to be, and somehow it works to get into the late game. I do want to see a challenge, though. I want to see what happens when that pressure from the Thresh Kalista lane gets put up and really goes across the map, like the Fiso says, swap around, maybe in the next game.
Shook, is this, when you watch this first game, is this the Fnatic you felt you played against when you lost?
I think Fnatic is a team you have to go super aggressive against. Just don't let them scale up. They like playing the late game, so go for early plays, get them where they're sort of weaker, and just attack them.
All right, well, that was game one. I didn't ask you guys for predictions, actually, in the beginning, and you said, well, few. After this one, do you dare give one, the Fisho?
I mean, originally I was like 3-1 either team.
No, you didn't.
Okay, H2K at first, so it can still happen. But I mean, look at this game. I actually don't really trust in H2K too much as a team playing these very important games right now. I think they are too slow in the way they're playing. The shot calling, they're too passive. So I actually think Fnatic right now looks like the better team. But obviously, it's only one game so far.
Foregone conclusions, go.
Yeah, like in short, 3-1 coming into the series for H2K. Provided they fix their issues. I thought Yankas was going to show up, Vander was going to show up a lot more. But they seem a little shaky. And then I think H2K is a team that gets affected a lot by losses, sadly. So I think Fnatic may actually have to take a very important step towards winning this series.
I also think Fnatic is going to have the edge now, because of this win, H2K is indeed going to have mental problems, I think, after this game. They're like a bit down, I think, after losing this game. And yeah, I think Fnatic is going to win it.
Well, we will see what happens after Fnatic's win. To start the series, the pressure is now on H2K to tie things up as we approach game two. We'll see you back here in just a few minutes.
Armed and ready for this third place deciding match between H2K and Fnatic. The chase is coming in from Fnatic, throws in the soldiers, and first blood to Fnatic.
Ree's being chased after, Gaps is coming in for the kill.
They've traded back and forth, but Forgiven is still alive. He's flashed forward for Featherman, and Forgiven's taking him down.
Nice. Kindred. Nice.
I'm moving. Nice.
We can end the game.
We can end the game.
And Fnatic find the first win in its best of 5.